So, welcome to Worcester. And welcome to the Early Childhood Summit. My name is Yagneris Garcia, Neri for short, and I'm the Director of Communications for Strategies for Children. We are so excited to be here with all of you today. We have a full program planned, including 3 amazing panels and time for networking and conversation. I'd first like to take a moment to highlight Strategies for Children's new mission statement, which was approved by our board of directors in June. You can see the mission statement on our postcards, which are on your tables. Lots of stuff on the tables. Our new mission statement is, Strategies for Children leads the way towards meaningful change in early childhood systems across Massachusetts by connecting people to people, people to policy, and people to power. What do y'all think? We are recommitting to our role as connectors and conveners. This is one of the priorities in our updated strategic plan and also developed this year and approved by our board. We actually have some board members in the room. If our board chair, Sally Fuller, and board members Felicia Bailey and Kim Quinlan are here, if you could stand. Sally's close? Okay. Are Felicia and Kim here? Kim is here. We hope to help you make connections today. Connections from people to people, people to policy, and people to power, and that this in-person summit can be an opportunity for that. We all love logging onto the 9:30 call, and we know nothing takes the place of in-person connections that can happen when we're all together in one physical location. We hope this summit becomes an annual tradition, and we're excited for what the future will hold. SFC turns 25 next year. And we will have a lot more to share about how we plan to celebrate that milestone with the early childhood community. So stay tuned. We want to give a shout out to our new Early Childhood Policy Pathways Fellowship. Which launched in September. This is a new full-time fellowship that gives recent graduates the chance to learn and influence policy firsthand. It creates a pipeline for future careers in early childhood policy here in Massachusetts. The fellowship is led by Strategies for Children with host organizations at Edward Street, East Boston Social Centers, and the Massachusetts Department of Early Education and Care. We are grateful to the Commonwealth Children's Fund for fully funding this first cohort. We have some fellows here in the room. Please stand. This afternoon, please find our fellows and introduce yourselves. They are here also to network and to get to know all of you. We also want to highlight our advocacy network for early childhood. We are now in our 5th cohort of the advocacy network as of last Tuesday. And we have grown our alumni to 42 individuals plus the 12 in cohort 5. That means 54 advocates and counting. And we have some advocacy network alumni here in the room as well. Would you stand? Thank you. We cannot imagine Strategies for Children without the Advocacy Network. Your lived experience and enthusiasm that you bring to our community cannot be overstated. We're excited to keep growing this network of advocates. Are there any 9:30 callers here? Did you all tune in this morning? Okay. You are also critical to this work. We cannot imagine SFC without the 9:30 call. We celebrated our 5th anniversary here in Worcester back in March, and the 9:30 call has changed the way we do everything at our organization. We have expanded our community with the 9:30 call in Espanol, which is held bi-monthly in Spanish for the Spanish-speaking early childhood community. And we hope to launch the 9:30 call in Portuguese next year. The 9:30 call gave us the inspiration for creating and hosting the Early Childhood Agenda. It became clear in 2020 that we can't just tackle one policy like childcare and hope that young children and families have everything they need to be successful. We launched the agenda in 2022 as a bold new way to bring together the entire early childhood community to address systemic challenges and unite and enhance improvement efforts across the state. Now, for an update on that, I'd like to introduce our Director of Policy, Strategies for Children, Marissa Fear.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to see so many familiar faces in this room. We're so excited to be in Worcester with you all, and we have a great afternoon planned. First, can we all give a round of applause for Neri? Neri makes us all look good, but it's really her organization and attention to detail that makes a day like this actually come into reality. So thanks, Neri, for planning all of this, and we're so excited to be together. All right, so as I mentioned, we have an exciting afternoon planned, and I want to start by talking about what is, I think, the heart of today, which is the panels. We'll be hearing stories and insights from people working in every corner of early childhood. These panels reflect the values at the core of our work, centering lived experience, connecting community-driven research to policy, and strengthening local partnerships. And they offer a perfect way to reintroduce something that many of you have helped shape over the years, which is the Early Childhood Agenda. You may have participated in the Early Childhood Agenda at some point over the past 3 years. For those of you that this is new, let me catch you up quickly. Back in 2022, Strategies for Children started hosting the Early Childhood Agenda as a statewide process to bring people together. We wanted to support progress in all things early childhood across the entire state. We identified many policy goals and collectively voted on priorities for the following 2 years. More than 1,000 individuals across the state contributed to that process, many of whom were parents or worked as early childhood professionals. Progress was made. Massachusetts now has a new child and family tax credit and universal school meals. Let's give a round of applause for that. The state passed a series of early education and care reforms in the state budget, including expanded child care financial assistance, permanent C3 operational grants, and guidance around a career ladder and compensation for early educators. Let's also give a round of applause for that. Yeah. And thanks to many of the partners in the room today, we have 23 different recommendations from the various work groups that the agenda held, and we're excited about where those go next. So as we look forward, we're clearly entering a new phase and responding to a different set of circumstances right now. Now in 2025, it's all about making this work more accessible, more connected, and more impactful. I want to bring us back to the new mission statement that Neri shared earlier, connecting people to people, people to policy, and people to power. Keep that in mind as I go through sort of what we have in mind for the agenda moving forward. Going forward, you can expect SFC to continue to host quarterly large group virtual convenings for anyone who wants to participate in the agenda. The next of these will be this winter, and we're going to focus on collective state budget asks and priorities, both for coalition leaders and for the ones who work with children and family every day. Shakira will share a little bit more about that during the next panel. We also hope that this is just the beginning for the Early Childhood Summit. An annual in-person event is a great way to bring together this entire community. We're going to invite cross-sector issue experts to present on the 9:30 call and create real-time feedback loops through that process. We'll raise awareness for the work you are doing through our Eye on Early Childhood blog. The Advocacy Network's new cohort is already starting to think about how and where they want to plug into the early childhood system. And there are so many opportunities to get involved that we're mapping all of the system improvement efforts that are taking place across the state so that we can all stay better connected, both inside and outside of state government. We've also been thinking about what resources would help local leaders advance this work in their communities. We'll talk about that more on the final panel today. We'll continue to connect with any advocacy coalition working to improve policies and outcomes for young children and families. And if you want to get involved, our strategies team is happy to help you connect to any of these coalitions. And finally, we will support or lead special projects as they become available. We're happy to fundraise and write grants collectively when opportunities arise. Together, we can achieve more from our early childhood system than any one person or organization can on its own. So today, talk to the panelists, make new connections, get involved in new coalitions. We know that 2025 has been one of the most challenging years ever for this community. And we know that early childhood professionals have limited bandwidth to do more, to get even more involved than they already are. But we also know that there are many people in our communities who feel alone, who feel disempowered and far removed from policy and policymakers. We have to double our efforts to connect people to people, people to policy, and people to power, and help folks plug into community change efforts. We think the early childhood agenda can help be a platform for that type of engagement. So, thanks again for joining us today. I'm going to turn it back over to Neri in a minute to go over a few logistics before we get started with the panels. And just a quick note for the panelists. We're super grateful that Ann Kaufman, who's sitting right over there, is going to help us stay on time during the discussion. So if you have any questions, feel free to just look at Ann and she'll let us know how much time we have left. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Neri.
Thank you, Marissa. It's time to go over some housekeeping. Take a look at your tables. There's a lot of stuff on them. You might be asking what they are. You will find a simplified program. It looks like this. And also, we already talked about the SFC postcard. On the simplified program, you will find the summary information, like the names of the panels, our image release statement, and more. The QR codes on both the postcard and the program agenda go to our link tree. And on our link tree, you will find a detailed digital program with all of our panelists' information, their names, their bios, their contact information. And also a survey that we'd like you to participate in towards the end of today. We'd like to highlight and thank our event sponsors, Rockland Trust and Massachusetts Business Roundtable, for their generous support. And actually, if you don't mind, make sure that the QR code works. If it doesn't work, let us know. Okay. Also on your tables, you will find name tags and markers. Please use them if you haven't already. You will find index cards and pens, and those will be for an activity led by panel 2 later today. You will also find some SFC paddles. They look like this. And we want you to have fun with those. Take photos for social media. Remember to tag us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Take them home with you. Use them as props during 9:30 calls, or just use them in the summer to keep yourself cool, if you like. So as you review the program, you will see that we have 3 panels. Between each panel, we will break for about 5 minutes to give folks a chance to use the restrooms, get refreshments, and then also allow our panelists to set up on stage. But before we go on break, I want to tell you about a new engagement strategy that we've acquired called the cue ball. Who has a cue ball? There it is. So we bought this with the hopes of making Q&A more interesting and fun. And so we're going to test it out now. So Marissa, would you stand? That's the cue ball. It's an actual ball. What we'd like you to do is to pass it or toss it if you feel confident to your neighbor if they want to ask a question or make a comment. And then you want to speak into the black part of it.
Testing, testing.
Testing, testing.
But do not throw it, especially if you don't make eye contact. It's not dodgeable. So great, it works. But in the event that it doesn't, we will set up a standing mic. Probably, we'll let you know where it is. Right now it's in the back of the room, but we will have a backup for that. All right, so everyone excited? Okay, so we will be back. It is 2:34, please. Alrighty, everybody. Those 5 minutes went by real quick. Have a seat. Our first panel is ready for you all. If you don't mind having a seat.
Everyone's having so much fun talking to each other. Because everybody's having so much fun talking to each other.
Okay. One quick note, our board chair, Sally Fuller, is here. And our other board member, Felicia Bailey, is here. So we promise we'll give you plenty of time. If we stay on schedule, we promise to give you plenty of time at the end for all your conversations and to make connections. For now, we're going to get started with panel number 1. Ages and Stages of Lived Experience with our moderator, Shakira Parker, who is our new Early Childhood Policy Pathways Fellows at Strategies for Children. Take it away, Shakira.
Thanks, Mary. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you all today and moderate this conversation, Ages and Stages of Lived Experience. Since the Early Childhood Agenda launched in 2022, lived experience has been central to how we at Strategies for Children do our work. We know that to build a strong and equitable early childhood system, we have to include the voices of the early childhood community at every step of the decision-making process. When we talk about lived experience and early childhood systems change, we're talking about the knowledge that comes from everyday experiences as parents, caregivers, educators, students, or community leaders, and using that knowledge to help shape policy and practice. We know that people come to this work from all kinds of vantage points, and that there's no one way to enter the early childhood space or to influence systems change. Some arrive through personal experience, some through professional experience or higher education, or some through community leadership. Today's session will be about 20 minutes of moderated conversation with our panelists and 10 minutes of audience Q&A. You can also look at the QR code for like the full panel list and their bios. And then as you listen, I encourage you to jot down any thoughts or questions you might have, and also connect with our panelists throughout the event. And so to start, let's get a sense of who's in the room. Raise your hand if you are the parent of a young child. Great. Raise your hand if you work with children and families every day. Even more hands. Raise your hand if you don't currently work with children or families but have a vested interest. And finally, keep your hands raised if you don't work directly with children and families now, but you started your career working with them or have at some point. Great. Now I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful panelists. I'll invite each of you to just briefly introduce yourself, your first and last name, your roles, and a bit about the lived experience you bring to this space.
Hi everyone, my name is Daiane Antonio. I am an assistant professor at Mass Bay Community College. So there I work in the associate degree in early childhood and the certificate programs. And we have the first, I think I can say that, first certificate program in the state that is entirely taught in Portuguese. I am a PhD student at UMass Boston in the Early Childhood Education Program. I am a fellowship in the Rainey Center, the Fellowship for Impact in Early Childhood and Policy. And the lived experience that I have here, and it's so hard for me to be talking in front of all of you because I am an autistic person, a mother of autistic child, I am an immigrant, and I am a former preschool teacher who struggled to navigate in early childhood regulations and policies because of the language barriers. So this experience shaped the way I advocate for inclusive, culturally and linguistically responsive systems that really meet educators and families where they are.
Thanks, Maggie. Thanks, Diane.
Hi, I'm Maggie Kilcoyne. I'm a Worcester native, so welcome. I graduated from Boston College and then got a degree in education and social policy from Northwestern University. I'm the mom of 3 boys that are 13, 10, and 7, and when I became a mom, I became very invested in what I was bringing them to and what I was exposing them to and seeing who else was there and who else maybe wasn't there. Why weren't there more people around? So I started to really advocate and try to get information out. And so now I am a parent resource ambassador at the Worcester Family Partnership, which is Worcester's CFCE.
Hi everyone, I'm Angelina Latin. I'm a second-year Master's of Clinical Social Work student at Boston College. I was a policy and research intern for Strategies for Children this past summer, so you may have seen me on a 9:30 call, possibly, maybe. Thank you. At Boston College, I'm also getting a certificate in child policy and leadership, and then before that, I was an early childhood educator at Boston Children's Hospital Child Care Center in Brookline.
Thank you all for those introductions. Before we jump into our first question, I want to do another quick check with the room. Raise your hand if you've ever thought about getting involved in early childhood systems change work or advocacy, but aren't quite sure like how or where to get started. Thank you. So that's what our panel is all about. Each of our panelists has found their own way to bring lived experience into early childhood systems change, and we're going to start with thinking about how they all got started there. Maggie, this first question is for you. Can you describe what motivated you to get involved in early childhood systems change?
So I started my career as a middle school math teacher, which is very different than early education. And math is a tricky subject, and so I would have students come after school for tutoring. And slowly, I started getting lots and lots of students coming, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna raise all these future mathematicians, this is great. But then I realized they were really coming because I was offering snacks. And slowly, my students started to open up to me about the fact that they actually didn't have food security in their lives. So I started bringing microwave dinners, and it was a good time, but they really started to appreciate that addition to their lives. So that was my first eye-opening experience into what I might want to start doing eventually with trying to get people the resources that they need. Then I had my kids and I stopped teaching for a bit so that I could be home with my boys, and I started bringing them to Worcester Family Partnership as a parent. And I loved everything that was offered, and I also noticed that, there could have been a lot more people attending these events, and I really started to feel very motivated to try to get people to start coming, and my now boss, Beth, who you'll hear from later, was kind enough to let me join the team and start trying as in any way I could to get information to other parents about what is around in the city for them, whether it be about food security. So I, to do that, started working with the Mayor's Food Task for Food Insecurity. And also I've now developed programming for clothing food, swaps, and just working a lot on social media to connect with other parents to try to get them the resources they need.
Thanks, Maggie. Diane, similar question. How did your experiences as an educator lead you to start advocating for more resources and support for teachers? Like, what drew you into this work?
So first, I was a preschool teacher in a center, in a child care center, and I felt like how barriers could impact me in my daily life interacting with children. So when I migrated to the public school system, being a kindergarten pre-K teacher in an inclusion classroom for Boston Public Schools, I saw how much support I had over the system, and then how early childhood educators feel underrepresented in, like, when they are family child care providers, when they are at the center. So it was when I started thinking, like, I need to do something. So when I started to the PhD and being the postmaster certificate at UMass in the fellowship program, and then now being a fellow in the Rainey Center, so I felt like I needed to support the community where I was. So as I was in the community that speak Portuguese, not just them, but how could I create something that could benefit my community and support the educators that are underrepresented under the system. So when we had the idea to start at Mass Bay creating the early childhood certificate program in Portuguese, we started very small, like the child development course, and then after that my students started asking for more. They wanted to learn more. They want to be in the higher education system. So when we started like offering more classes, and then when we finished the cohort, like my students finished the courses, they graduated. So when we started, and from now, this May we graduate 26 students entirely in Portuguese. It was so amazing to see that. So my path and what motivated me in the under the childhood advocacy and the systems change is to make the difference in my community, starting small.
That's amazing. Thank you. And thank you both for sharing that. Now I want to shift us into how those experiences translate into action, which Diane touched on a little bit. But there are many ways to get involved in early childhood systems change, from coalitions and parent leadership groups to higher education and fellowships. Angelina, from your vantage point, what's one way you've been able to contribute to systems change?
So through the Child Policy and Leadership certificate at BC, you take 3 courses, you do an internship, and then you do a capstone, which is more of applying what you learned over the summer into either like a research paper, a policy brief, an op-ed, something like that. And so what I've been able to do is take courses in child policy, and then I took leadership in for social justice over the summer, and then those courses in conjunction with the internship allowed me to make a presentation on family resource centers and how we can reimagine family support that specifically focuses on marginalized communities. So whether that's through braided funding or expanding resources and co-locating state services so they're more accessible for families, that was one of the ways that I was able to kind of apply what I was learning over the summer, and then also learn about like more of the systems policies behind it as well.
Maggie, similar question. You've been involved in different parent leadership programs in Worcester. Can you share how those programs helped you find your voice as an advocate?
Yeah, I love to connect with other parents, whether that be through social media or in person. So my best avenue to learning anybody's story is just to listen and present myself as authentically as I can when I meet with them. So then I can take anything I learn from them and try to elevate their voices when I participate in things like Together for Kids Coalition and other community action programs.
And switching gears a little, I'd love to hear, Diane, more of your perspectives on barriers. I know you talked a little bit about it before around like some of like creating the certificate program, but what barriers or challenges have you faced in bringing your lived experience into policy or system spaces, and then how'd you move through them?
Yeah, so most policies and research are reading in a technical English, and that excludes non-native English speakers. So being invited to the table and not being always given a voice or power in decisions is also a barrier. And navigating professional spaces while disclosing autism and advocating for accessibility is another thing. So it's hard when you have a need for something and you cannot reach your goal because your necessity is also a barrier.
And I guess, like, going off of that, if you want to talk a little more about, like, the information access and some of the challenges in that space?
Yeah, so it is very important for early childhood educators and professionals that work in the early childhood field is to look for more trainings and gain the tools and credentials in this state that we need to process and be able to work every day. So it's kind of a solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
So creating networks and being able to contact other people that is around you is another way, and kind of connect with your community. It's important.
Thank you. And now we're going to talk a little bit about how, like, what it takes to build systems that are more inclusive and accessible. Angelina, I wanted to ask your thoughts on how policymakers, system leaders, and researchers can meaningfully partner with people with lived experience so that it leads to real change.
So one of the things that I've learned both in my research and then also in classes is starting with asking people what it is that they need, because it sounds so simple, but sometimes what ends up happening is that you go in with good intentions in terms of providing the resources, but it may not necessarily be what that community needs at that particular time, or you're replicating that's something that already exists. So it's more of asking them what they need and allowing them to partner with you in terms of finding it, like doing it in a way where it's sustainable so that once you leave, it continues on and it's you're able to still help the community in a way that's accessible for them.
Thank you. And so I wanted to ask all of you, like, what advice would you give to someone who wants to get involved but doesn't necessarily see themselves as an advocate or see a role for themselves in this space? And anyone can start.
Yeah. So before, right, I am in this position, but thinking about like advocacy doesn't mean to be like a public speaking like this or to be in a protest, right? So it starts with sharing your story. It starts to connect with other people. Like start small, like join a coalition or attend a community meeting, or for example, speak up in your workplace. This is advocacy. There is power in lived experience, like what we are doing now. And you are the expert in your story. If you ever had a fight for your child or your students, you are already an advocate.
I agree completely. Conversation with people is what will lead to ideas and to potential solutions, and really identifying, what is the need? If someone's willing to share that they have a need for clothing, maybe then they'll help you sort clothes for a clothing swap. They don't have to organize the whole thing. Nobody has to do the whole thing, but everybody can do a little part of it. My background really has been a lot of grassroots type movement, and just listening to people and saying, well, what would help you, as you said, so that I can really try to identify what a possible solution is with their help. And that might be all they can do today is say, it would help me if, and then tomorrow, once they've gotten that help, maybe they could help with the next solution.
I have a follow-up question. How do you think like social media or community spaces like churches can help people start connecting and advocating?
So a lot of my work is on social media. I'm in pretty much every mom or parenting group on the internet right now, I feel like, because people, I think with the anonymity option on Facebook, are willing more to say, hey, I'm looking for this, and maybe there's shame, maybe there's embarrassment, or they just don't feel like sharing who they are. So I can often provide whatever information and resources I have, but then it often leads to them directly messaging me so that we can further the conversation. So I think especially social media, with people being as isolated as they are right now in our current climate, is very important.
Thank you. Angelina, any advice?
I guess like in the higher ed space, I've learned that it's really good to ask a lot of questions. Nag people if you ever so wish. And then that's how you can connect with other people that can lead you into spaces where you can advocate, or where you can learn more about how to advocate in a way that helps other people.
Thank you. Let's see, before we open it up for audience questions, just want to check back in with everyone. I asked like how many of you wanted to get involved in early childhood systems change, but like didn't know where to start. So now that we've heard all their like wonderful stories and examples, raise your hand if you're feeling a little more inspired or have some ideas about where you want to get started. Great. That's exactly what we wanted to see, a little more hands, yeah? Now we'd love to hear from all of you. Please introduce yourself briefly before asking your question. The ball is going to be going around, or there's also standing mics.
All right, I'm gonna kick it off while we're getting started. Titus has a microphone back as well, and then I'm gonna have the ball and I'll walk through it. My question is for Maggie. Can you share a little bit about some of the spaces that exist in Worcester and how they're incorporating parent voice into those tables? So like Together for Kids Coalition and other tables that you've been a part of?
Yeah, so at Together for Kids Coalition, we have started a family advisory committee that is uplifting the voices of parents and letting them take on leadership roles. At Worcester Family Partnership, we are always encouraging families to participate, and we have participated in a program where parents can do community impact projects, which is very impactful and has been really great for some of our parents. There's a leadership committee through Ann Bureau here in Worcester that I attend and hear all kinds of things that parents are concerned about, which is great because then I can bring it to other tables I'm sitting at. But there's a lot of opportunity here in Worcester, and we're very lucky. And the other thing that is currently a big thing coming around in Worcester is, and other places I'm sure too, but digital storytelling, where we're trying to capture the stories of parents so that even if, they're busy, right? They can't always be here, but could share their story that way.
Thank you very much. All right. Go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question, and then Titus, you can hand that half of the room, and I'll have this half of the room. But go ahead and raise a hand if you have a question for one of our panelists. Or reflection, as Amy is saying to me right now. Jody.
I don't have so much a question, but I do have a reflection of the power. Oh, I'm sorry. Dodie one of the coordinators, and here's the other one, Yolanda Ramos, Together for Kids Coalition. Maggie is one of our absolute superstars. But one of the things that Maggie did early on in the pandemic was identified all the green spaces for families to go to in the city. And that the city had never done that. They'd never said, here's all the child-friendly, and especially young child-friendly play spaces where you can get outside, get some fresh air, let your kid run around. I mean, it's a simple thing, but it was transformative for our families. And so, what a family sees is so, so important, because the rest of us, if we're not walking around with small children, don't necessarily know how important that is. And I just want to say thank you, Maggie, for your leadership over all these years.
Only takes one, then they're all the hands are up.
Hi, I'm Kira Durrett. I'm the director at the Williston Northampton Children's Center in Western Mass and East Hampton. As Donna would say, the 413. I'm a little embarrassed to be sitting next to her, but I just want to say an appreciation and for all three of you and how you advocate in such different spaces. I just looked up the definition of advocate because I think it's important for all of us to know what the meaning of that word is if we're talking about advocate, and understand that not all of us can do it in the same way, and each of you have had a very different path, and not all of you could do it in the same way, and not all of us can do it in the same way. And I'm especially appreciative hearing, how, Maggie, you started by feeding children in your math class, and how you started by speaking Portuguese and living this experience, and you started in your academic space. And I've been reflecting on my own experiences as where I'm an advocate, and I'm not, as you said, sitting on a panel advocating, but I'm advocating in my space. And if all of us are advocating in our own spaces, it makes a huge impact. And I'm appreciative of being in a room full of people who advocate in that way. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Ren Veach. I am a grad student at UMass Amherst in early childhood. I am part of the advocacy cohort number 5. Very honored to be part of it. Thank you. And I work at the Center for Early Education and Care at UMass as a resource teacher. I'm really inspired by all of y'all. I think your name is Angelina. Mm-hmm. Angelina, as a grad student, I'm like, I think it's amazing how you can speak up in that role. I sometimes sort of shrink away from that. I feel like I'm really inspired by you to ask for what I need from the program that I'm in. So thank you. Is it Denise? Diane, I'm so sorry, Diane. I just really resonated with your story. My comment is really around how to get involved. So in the area where I work, I'm trying to do advocacy for families and parents. I'm new as of about a year and a half ago to my program, and I keep going to my director with things like, let's do a clothing swap, let's do a family potluck, let's do a whatever day so we can build community around this. And I'm getting a lot of no's, and I think it's probably because they don't want to rock the boat. We work under this administration with the university. It's easier just not to. Do you have advice for how to sort of like push through that gently and get the admin and higher ups on board in a gentle way?
Yes. So I had so many no's as well. And I said, okay, let's just start really small. And if we don't get it, we don't get it. So what do you have to lose about it? So we started, for example, the program started with just the early childhood, the child development course. I was dreaming so big, but I was like, okay. And then my director said, my chair of the department, oh, I don't know, maybe we don't have like students enough to cover one course. And I said, let's see it. So I started social media, like asking the community, if we have a course in Portuguese at the college, would you do it? And I had so many yes. So we had 26 spots and 92 people applied for the first course. So we had like that, like huge waiting list. And then I was like, see it? We can do it. So when we started with this, and then when we were almost done with the course by the end of the semester, I said, and now, what those people are going to do without, like, just with that course, they can apply for teacher certification if they have like the work, how do you say that? The work, yes, work verification. But they need more. They want to be lead teachers. They want to be directors. And then, okay, let's do it. Like, I know, I trust you. So the first thing is to show that you can do it. And then after that, when you show you can do it, everything will go for you. So we need to start, like, we have this goal, right? So, but just to start with the little piece and show what can you do, and like have support with like friends, community, ask for help over like Instagram, WhatsApp, and all that, like Telegram, all that like stuff we can do it.
Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Eliza Copans. I am one of the 5 fellows as part of Strategy First Fellowship, and I'm based in East Boston at East Boston Social Centers, where our community members are being heavily affected by all of our federal changes, and there's a lot of fear in the community. How are you all navigating creating opportunities for families and people with lived experiences who want to share their voice in ways that feel meaningful for them and where they're also not scared? And of course, social media as one way, but any specific strategies for going about that and making sure that people know there's a space for them in which they can still affect change and stay safe. Thank you.
I think one of the big things we're doing, like when we did the community food assessment here in Worcester, it really is doing community conversations that can be private and anonymous, and digital storytelling so that they can send their stories elsewhere and not have to be physically present.
I had also very like a big issue, like because of the situation we are now. So students were afraid to go to the college. So we need to create ways that the community is feeling safe to talk with you. Like they need to feel safe. It's the first part is the relationship that you build.
I am Lamin, an intern with Lamin from the Gambia, West Africa, maybe near Senegal for those who don't. I'm a grad student, leadership policy in early childhood well-being. Doing my intern with Strategies for Children. I'm really impressed with the presentation from panels. Oh, really? Oh. I'm sorry. I thought it was a ball. All right. Thank you so much for that rectification. Actually, I'm really impressed with the responses coming from the table and then questions coming from the floor. I've been always asking this question. How do I make sure this thing is translated in my country, the Gambia? Because actually we also have what we call multi-sectoral working group, where you have individuals coming from the health sector, agriculture. By the way, I'm from Ministry of Education. So with that multi-sectoral working group looks at children's issues. There are, issues around it, like in terms of How do we coordinate? How do we meet and discuss, share ideas, work on our plans as expected? It becomes a problem. So my question is, what type of facilitation can this body do to enable such a fora to be established in my country? One, because we have issues around funding. Funding is a major problem. But with these networks like, okay, internet may be a problem, electricity may be a problem, but fora like this one, which are social media, because we are in a digital world now, you can be sitting out there in Basel, the remotest part of the Gambia, and participate in this particular session in Gambia. So I really adore this type of fora, and I want to ensure that it is also replicated in the. It's really going to help. And my other question is, in terms of data, like advocacy looks at a lot of areas. Okay, how do we synergize what progress are we making at public level? For example, okay, at our own corners, we are making a lot of progress in terms of intervention, and then we have our set of data. But do we have any sort of a global data where I would say, okay, I think because of our advocacy, we were able to increase the enrollment of children. We call it back home, but maybe number of people who participate in childcare activities in Worcester, for example. All right, these are your set of data for social strategies for children. But there are other bodies who are working with strategies for children. So how do we synergize that data? How can someone access some of those data in terms of enrollment, in terms of so many other things, all right? So I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. So in terms of your first question, if I understand it correctly, like how can spaces like this or forums like this be used to make like change or address like different types of challenges like the early childhood space is facing, like such as funding? Okay. And in terms of your other questions around data, I think the next panel and the third panel will really get at some of the infrastructure and research needed. But I don't know if anyone here wants to tackle that first question around how spaces like this can be used. And that'll be like all we have time for.
I feel like spaces like this lead to networking, which leads to the exchange of ideas and what you're all doing at your individual services and what you're offering. And so the more we know about what everybody else is doing, the more we can affect change and bring those services back to the people who need them.
Thank you. Thank you all for your great questions. Please join me in a round of applause for our panelists. And I'm going to turn it back over to Neri.
Thank you so much. Panelists, we would like to take your group photo. So if you wouldn't mind walking over this way. And our photographer will take your picture. So thank you so much. We learned a lot. And there's more to talk about. You want me to do that? All right, everyone. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap two. If you can hear me, clap three. Okay, I think everyone can hear me. Please have a seat. Thank you so much. We gave you a little extra time for networking, But now we're ready to move on to panel number 2. So I'd like to introduce you to our panel number 2, Accent Research, with moderator Dr. Kim Locus, professor of the practice in public policy and economic justice at the School of Public Policy and Urban Affairs at Northeastern University. And Kim, take it away.
Woo! Thank you, Neri. Neri just introduced me. I also want to acknowledge the fact that I'm a board member on the Department of Early Education and Care, and I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to see a full room of people who are here to talk about the early childhood agenda and to advocate, as we heard in our earlier panel, and now to talk about action research, exclamation. We heard a little bit about the interest, need, and also practice of doing research, data, and design in our first panel, but we're going to get really into it now. Before I do that, I'm going to have my co-panelists up here introduce themselves, and then I'll talk a little bit about what we all do together, and actually already with some of you in the room. So I'm going to just hand this over, and you guys can introduce yourselves.
Thanks, Kim. My name is Yu Zhu. I work for the Department of Early Childhood at Boston Public Schools. Sorry, I was a little bit late today. I had to pick up my kid from kindergarten, got a call from the school. This is the reality of life, having early childhood kind of related stuff. Nice to see everybody here.
Hello, everyone. Wendy Wagner-Robeson from Wellesley Centers for Women. And I just want to add one more thing. The Boston Globe reporter is calling me on Monday. He wants to know what the state of early care and education is in Massachusetts from the parent's point of view. I always put in educators every time. But if you want to have your voice heard, just see me and I'll put you in.
All right, go Wendy. I'm going to pass it over.
Thanks, everyone. I'm Rosa Turco. I'm currently Director of Evaluation and Educational Excellence at Ellis Early Learning. And in my role, I'm actually trying very much to put action, research into action. So I'm very excited to be here and to learn from all of you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Kyle DeMeo-Cook. I'm a faculty member at Boston University's Wheelock College of Education and Human Development, and I'm really looking forward to everything you put on these cards and all this discussion today.
All right, co-panelists, yay. We are here as part of the leadership team, and this is just definitely part of the leadership team. There's actually 9 of us, and our intern, Siobhan Drayton, who is in the audience. Where is she? Hey, Siobhan! So there's a bunch of us who are part of the leadership team for the statewide Massachusetts Early Childhood Policy Research Collaborative. Ugh, that's a lot of words. But just in a nutshell, who are we as a collaborative, a group of people? We are all, the 5 of us up here, and the many of you here who maybe you are part of our summer working group. Anybody here part of our summer working group? Raise your hands. Oh, over there. Yep. And did anybody else in here show up to our spring summit in April? Whoa! Okay. This is not exclusive, though. I'm going to tell you who we are, and then I'm going to invite you to do stuff. We are all curious. That's the big thing that we have in common. So anybody in here curious? Okay, we got curiosity in the house. Okay, that's great. We are also very excited to, okay, this is maybe where people will pair off. We are excited to do some things. We are excited to conduct the research to show that your experience is not the only experience. And in fact, we are all having similar experiences together, and to uplift those experiences to policymakers, to practitioners, to other folks who are doing philanthropy, for example, and other folks across the country and in the field. We are excited to find statistics, to find the data that we talked about earlier, and to use that evidence to get a no, that we can't do that, to a yes, maybe we should try. And then we are also excited to design and pilot innovative ways of working with children, families, and each other. And so, speaking of designing innovative ways of working with each other. I'm going to pass it to Rosa to lead you through. We're not going to talk at you. Academics, very famous for talking at you. We're not going to do that. I promise. You're welcome. I'm going to hand it over to Rosa to lead you and invite you, all of you who are curious. Yeah? Okay, we want to tap into that curiosity. Here we go.
Yes, this is more of an activity, so hopefully everyone will be engaged and curious. So we want all your help to help shape the vision of our collaborative. And so all of you in your table should have these note cards that have statements of, if I knew, then I would be able to. And then in the back, it has some other questions about resources and contact information. So you will use these cards today to help us learn the type of questions that you all have, the type of data, the support that you might need to then answer those questions. We saw a lot of great examples from our panelists today, from Diane talking about how she had this great idea, but she needed data to be able to gather information about, like, do people even need this resource, this course that's offered in Portuguese? Data around the green spaces in Worcester, different types of data that people were mentioning today. And so this is exactly what we're trying to get from all of you. I'm sure all of you have different questions that you have, and what we want to do is collect those questions from all of you. So you will each have one of these, and you can work together in your tables to think as a group, or if you prefer to work alone, that's also fine. I know we all think and work differently. And then we'll, at the end, gather around and start to gather these questions. We'll have some time to have some of you share some of those questions out loud. We won't have time to get through all of them today. We won't have the answers to all those questions today, but we invite you all to afterwards connect with us during the networking event. Afterwards, we'll be sharing our information so that we can continue this conversation and start to think strategically about ways that we can work together to get research into action. Any questions? Anything I left out?
It can be about educators, it can be about families. So think broadly. You can have questions about the children that you care for, maybe the families that you are in your program, maybe the educators, maybe EC, maybe the nation, maybe the world. We want all your questions. And you don't even have to talk about education. Maybe you're just worried about, like, who's going to win the World Series this year. You can do that. But think, be curious.
And your cards are Mad Lib style, so y'all know how to Mad Lib. We invite you to Mad Lib with us. And we'll walk around the room and chat with you all in case you have questions. Yay.
Oh, can you hear me? 4 more minutes for discussion. 4 more minutes.
"30 seconds. You have 30 seconds to wrap it up." Who's our timekeeper? Who's a timekeeper? How much time do we have for this session? So how much time do I have? 5 minutes? Okay. In 5 minutes, we're going to go really fast. We also are going to collect all these cards, so make sure your contact information is on the back so we can come back to you with all the answers. I think we tried to solve everything in 30 seconds or less. So what I'd like is someone from, just let's pass that ball around or whatever. We want to hear from you. Someone who has a question, just tell it, and then we're going to ask if other people have the same question to raise their hand. And if anyone has the answer to the question, stand right up.
You want to stand up and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm just going to read from it. Hi everyone, my name is Kelly. I'm the founder of My Kid States, a family engagement education technology platform. I've been doing that for the last 12 years now. So my question again, is around technology. What methods and models exist for educators today to guide them to effectively and meaningfully integrate technology in the classrooms? So as not to cause distraction in the classroom, but more focus on the learning goals.
Anyone have the same kind of question about technology in the classroom? Anyone have an answer? Thank you. Okay, next. I read some really great questions out there, super great questions. If I read your question, okay. Laura?
There we go. Hi, I'm Laura Fragamini. I'm with the Northampton Preschool Partnership, and we have, with the CPPI grant, embedded itinerant special education services in all the family child cares and centers in Northampton. And I would love to move beyond anecdotal, like, oh, this child had services and they went off and they're ready for kindergarten, or this family was able to stay employed. Like, which data can we use to really show the child outcomes for the children with disabilities? Is it indicator 7? Where should we be looking for that data to show that embedded services in their day? How can we show that embedded services for the educators? So those early childhood educators whose skills are expanding from working with educators. On the peers, how can we show that their social emotional development is improved by having all kinds of learners in their classrooms? And what about family stability? What markers, what data should we be collecting? And can we use data we have? Is there DESE and EEC data out there? I need help.
Anyone have something similar to that? That was a real tough question. Excellent.
What was your similar question?
I'm Chris Loomis from Ellis Early Learning. Our question was, if I knew how to advocate for early intervention to go from birth to 5, I would then be able to support children's development and negate the need for as many services in elementary school. What resources, capacity do we need? We would need to know how to get data about the effectiveness of EI and who directly could influence a change in the policy, as well as how to contact them.
Go, Chris. Okay, does that spark anything for anybody? Does anybody have other EI similar questions? Yeah? Similar question? Yeah?
Thank you. Yeah, I need my paper. I don't remember. So, all right, sorry. Oh, right here. Okay. The age is coming in. If I knew what we are doing wrong at increasing literacy rates, then I would be able to find an intervention program in pre-K classrooms. And what resources and support and capacity training for educators and more collaboration between DESE and EEC.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, yep, I got
over here. Oh, yeah.
I'm Joanna Sweeney Gray, and I am the program director at Mentor South Bay Early Intervention. I love your question. And my question was actually more about how better to match the intent of early intervention services to their impact and their reality, so that promoting self-sufficiency and empowering caregivers and families.
Wow, wow. Okay, so, yeah, we ran out of time, darn. We could talk about this for hours and hours. I love all your questions. And we do want all your note cards. So if we haven't collected them already, if you want to bring them up or hang your hand up or something.
And one of the things that we wanted to show through this action research, aside from us seeing what you wanted to know, is how interconnected all of our questions are, right? Like we could go around the room and one person sparked one thing that sparked one thing that sparked one thing that sparked another thing, and these are all really interconnected. And we have over 200 researchers on our listserv who are ready and willing to figure these things out with you. And so by collecting these cards, and if other things, other panels, other conversations spark, if I wish I had this, if I had this, I could, then please fill out a card, share them with us, and if you leave your information, we will get back to you and let you know if we have someone who's already done the work and who can get you that information, or someone who's interested in working with you to get you that information. That's the point of a research collaborative, is to help bring the research and the nerds into the spaces that support the field. Thanks, everyone.
If panel number 2 wouldn't mind to just stand right over here so that you can get your group photo. And I'd like to ask panel number 3 to come up. We have one more panel, so we will not take a break. So we'd like to welcome to the stage panel number 3, Together in Worcester, Building a Stronger Early Childhood System, with moderator Marissa Fear, Director of Policy and Strategies for Children. They just need like 2 more minutes, 1 more minute to set up. So let's welcome panel number 3.
All right, I hope you all enjoyed wearing your researcher hats for a minute there. Okay, our next panel will give us the opportunity to explore early childhood systems change at the local level. We are in Worcester today, and we're going to learn more about the cross-sector work that is happening in Worcester through the lens of the Early Childhood Agenda's 5 action areas. So these 5 action areas are financially secure families, high-quality experiences, thriving early childhood workforce, robust system infrastructure and local partnerships, and healthy beginnings. We know that each of these action areas are essential. They've helped us look across the early childhood system and consider more potential solutions that address the challenges that are holding back young children and families. So as an example, when we think about financially secure families, we can talk about the high cost of childcare, but we can also talk about tax credits or cash payments. Maide is going to get into that a little bit more during her talking points. We can have a bigger conversation with more people about how to support families without getting stuck in our various silos. I'm excited for you to hear from the panelists and would encourage you to think about what exists in your local community. So where can you plug in? What can you help get started? What resources do you need? And what can you take away from some of the lessons learned in Worcester? The session is going to be about 20 minutes of conversation, and then we'll have some more time for Q&A. Shakira is going to run around with the blue ball this time. Okay, so we're going to go over to some introductions. So Kim, why don't you kick us off first, and you can do a quick introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your role, and how your role connects to an action area.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kim Davenport. I'm the CEO at Edward Street here in Worcester. We work on early education policy, advocacy, and resource development within our community locally, as well as across Central Mass. I'm also wearing another hat today as the chair for the Together for Kids Coalition, and that is one of our kind of anchoring support structures for a robust early childhood system that we'll be talking about today.
Thanks, Kim. And just a quick reminder, the microphones are a little quiet, so if you have to move your face in or pull them closer to you, that might help too. Okay, go ahead, Joelle, you're next.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joelle Ward. I'm here today representing Worcester Community Midwifery. Worcester Community Midwifery, WCM, is a small midwifery practice that has been doing home birth, providing prenatal care, postpartum care, lactation support in Worcester for about 3 years now. And we are really excited to share that we are developing Worcester's first birth center. So, thank you. At Worcester Community Midwifery, I function as a nurse. I've been a nurse for about 15 years in Worcester. But there I do a lot of the care with our clients and babies. I also do childbirth education, lactation coaching, and birth center development.
Amazing. Beth, over to you.
Hi, welcome to Worcester. I'm Beth Bates, and I am the Coordinated Family and Community Engagement Coordinator for the City of Worcester, which is a grant from EEC to the Worcester Public Schools. We support families in their role as the child's primary teacher, providing for parent education and support to motivate them in that role.
Amazing. Leslie, go ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm Leslie Baker. I'm the program director at the Center for Child Care Careers at Family Services of Central Mass and Seven Hills Foundation. I was a family child care educator when my children were young. I took a sidestep into adult basic education and worked with English speakers of other languages and people that were non-traditional students, and came back to Family Services, or the Center for Child Care Careers, when we were ready to launch our first workforce initiative of the registered apprenticeship. We were the first registered apprenticeship in early childhood in Massachusetts. And now I'm a grandmother. And now I'm a grandmother to a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, so I have another vested interest in the sector.
All right, my day. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, and yes, welcome to Worcester. That's how you're supposed to say it. My name is Maide Morales, and I am the director of the Resiliency Center for Worcester Community Action Council. So our program has 2 components to it. One is community navigation of resources, and then the other one is a financial empowerment center, which is what I'm going to really talk about later. Oh, but I also want to say thank you so much for you all being early childhood educators and taking care of my babies so I can do work for our community. So I wouldn't have been able to do it without you guys.
Amazing. All right, so Kim, why don't you help us set the stage? What system infrastructure and local partnerships have supported early childhood planning efforts in Worcester?
Right here. To my left, and down here. I think one of the anchoring elements is our Together for Kids coalition. And that coalition was born out of work that was done more than 20 years ago to solve a problem that we found locally that was affecting our classrooms, affecting our children, and affecting our workforce and teacher well-being. And from that work, we've continued to stay together and look at the next problem, the next need, the next gap. And the Together for Kids coalition at this point in its evolution is over 273, am I right, Dodie? 273 and growing members and organizations that are really cross-sector and working intentionally at the intersections to find opportunities to make systems and infrastructure better for families. And it doesn't sound so, sexy, but the reality is that our families struggle with navigation and our educators struggle with navigation. That's a huge issue, and we can work on that locally in our own communities. They also struggle with having their voices heard, and I think you heard earlier that the lived experience work that we're doing through Together for Kids Coalition and all of the partners and how they integrate family and family voice directly at tables is elevating the issues and making a difference for new choices that need to be made in systems and infrastructure. We also have been pulling the young children up to the grown-ups table, quite literally. So young children are at tables with us because we carry them to the grown-up table and ask the hard questions about what's happening, what's needed, and raise the issues, ask for the data, look at the data, and make new decisions with leaders at the table. So those are a few pieces that are part of the infrastructure that we've been building. And the folks to my left are going to share in their sphere, in their area related to our early childhood agenda, how they've been advancing work in those areas to meet family and young children's needs.
Kim, before we go on, can you just give one quick example of the young kids being pulled up to the grown-up table and what that has looked like?
Yeah, what did that look like? So there, in Worcester, several years ago, we created a governance council for children, youth, and family. But children weren't the first name in the group. It was more looking at youth and the challenges and issues that youth were having. And the leadership from our city was around that table, and they were doing the hard work of figuring out how to lower the incidence of violence and how to support our youth in ensuring that we had a strong and thriving infrastructure to help them reach their goals and to address issues that were very prevalent in our community. And through research and data, we learned that the challenges were even earlier, and that the most dangerous, most involved youth, the 100 most involved youth with challenges in our city, had a predominant rate of exposure to a traumatic event when they were a child, 0 to 5. So that shifted the conversation, and we started to pull a chair up to the table with our leadership teams to say that young children's needs needed to be addressed early and often and sooner. And so that if you wanted to create the change later, you really needed to invest earlier. And that's been the work that we've been doing, kind of going elbow to elbow with the city manager, with the chief of police, with the fire department, and with all the leaders across the city's departments that work on behalf of our community.
Thanks, Kim. I had heard that story before, and I think it's just a great example of early childhood pushing into other spaces that aren't necessarily focused on early childhood. All right, Joelle, can you talk a little bit about what Worcester is doing to support healthy beginnings for young children, and maybe lift up a solution or potential barriers that you've encountered too?
Sure, thank you. So first, I just want to give you a little bit of background about Worcester Community Midwifery and how it relates to early childhood. So midwifery, I don't know if anyone is familiar with midwifery practice in general, is very unique in the form of care that's given. So in midwifery care, the patient is centered, whereas it's important to teach about prevention, education, and teaching things like autonomy, and really providing what some people would almost think of as like concierge care in comparison to what is considered, normal care that is received at a hospital. So with midwifery care, there's proven to have improved outcomes in maternal health. This is speaking to things like maternal morbidity, which is long-term effects that someone can have from a labor experience. Things like stroke, kidney failure, blood clots, high blood pressure are actually quite common events, unfortunately, that happen to people. But with midwifery care, there are statistics that show that these things happen much less. And some people say, like, well, what are midwives doing that's so different? The difference is when you have care that's really patient-centered, where you build a long-standing, trusting relationship with your client, it's much more, it's easier to recognize when things start to shift to abnormal. It's also care that focuses on prevention and education rather than reactive care. So just setting the stage for what midwifery is and realizing that Worcester Community Midwifery, in every interaction that we have with our clients, that's how we care for people. So, excuse me, research also shows that with having better outcomes for the birthing person, that also extends and ripples into the rest of the family, especially for the baby. When a birthing person is better able to care for themselves, they're better able to care for their baby. So I just want to give you another quick example. Think of a person who is having an emergency C-section that has a big blood loss. So I can think of right out the gate a few instances in this scenario that create barriers and hurdles that this person will have to overcome in order to care for themselves and for their child. So that separation, just simply being separated right after birth in the operating room, that creates a delay in bonding, that creates a delay in lactation, having a severe blood loss and things like anemia, that creates a delay in the person's ability to recover, but also to produce milk as their body has to regenerate and build back into the molecular structure in order to create milk itself. So just thinking about, in the way our healthcare system is right now, how high our induction rates and how high our C-section rates are, this sets the stage for big delays and breaks in care, which can have lasting impact on a baby with things like neurodevelopment. There's actually higher incidence of things like asthma and allergies with infants that experience these delays. Higher incidence of postpartum mental health issues that can also impact, how an infant is cared for from birth all the way up until, postpartum mental health can have impacts for 2 years, where people think postpartum ends at 6 weeks, but studies show that it's really more like 2 years. So I say all that to say that Worcester Community Midwifery, and with the care that we provide, we want to help decrease the incidence of these types of issues with our growing families in Worcester. So, sorry, I get excited when I talk about these things, so there goes the notes, right? So we also at Worcester Community Midwifery encourage the foundation of families with things like nutrition. We have parenting classes, childbirth education classes, because we really want not just to care for the birthing person physically and the baby physically, but really think about how are we helping to support this growing family? How are we connecting them with local resources that are necessary? How are we teaching them to best care for themselves? So in doing that, we have a neonatal nurse practitioner that's on our team as well, just to help with making sure that we're able to keep our babies safe and healthy and under midwifery style care for up to 3 years. So I think that's something that's really special, to think that that same customized, personalized care that when you really know your provider very well also extends to your baby. So having the ability to learn more about options and choices on how to care for your baby, thinking about things like vaccines. I know everyone has their feelings about them, but it's important that regardless of what your feelings are, that you're making educated decisions with the choices that you're making for your family. So that's something that's very important to us too, is to help educate people in order to make the best decisions for things like vaccines, as an example. So, what's a big barrier for families in midwifery care? I would say insurance reimbursement and the financial aspect of healthcare, the system right now. In August of 2024, Massachusetts passed the Momnibus. That's how it's been known. And this legislation really pushed forward a lot of the midwifery care changes that we're seeing, and really is making Massachusetts one of the forefront states that's pushing birth centers and midwifery care to increase and to help make changes with a lot of these comorbidities and other unfortunate effects that we're seeing in this healthcare crisis that we have right now. So with this legislation, there's a lot of increased access to midwifery care as one of the objectives, as well as the creation of more birth centers in Massachusetts. I think the legislation in itself is phenomenal, but now we have to see these things actually come to fruition. And that's where some of the holdup and delays have been from our perspective at Worcester Community Midwifery. We have the ability to provide this amazing care, but unfortunately, insurance reimbursement rates, which were previously much less for midwives, was another example of a big barrier. If we know that midwifery saves lives, but it's unattainable for most people because it's an extreme out-of-pocket expense, it's like you know what the answer is, but you can't reach it. So having Mass Health now reimburses birth center births, and things like pay parity for midwives is also essential. Midwives were getting paid, I think it was 82% in comparison to providers for the same care with proven increased outcomes that are better for families. So if we have a birth center, but we don't have the staff to keep it running, and we don't have the sustainability, then again, we have the answer, but we don't have a way to keep this great resource functioning. So I would say that, again, the biggest things are the financial aspects of it and insurance reimbursement, and trying to get private payers to also see the necessity of this and to create contracts that are more accessible for local families to be able to access midwifery care.
Thanks, Joelle.
I know. Thank you.
So shifting over, Beth, can you talk a little bit about how Worcester Family Partnerships is promoting high-quality experiences for children? What's working about engaging with families? Where have you encountered any barriers?
Sure. Worcester Family Partnership and the network of CFCEs throughout the state. I know I do have colleagues out in the audience, so shout out to all of you. We work to support families explicitly and directly, and that is part of our mission. And in the early childhood field, we all know the importance of the earliest years in promoting brain development and social emotional skill development. And much of that occurs in the context of families, and all of it occurs best when it's supported by families. So the work that we all do is better if it's supported by what's going on in the families. So CFCEs work to support families. And we're open to all families, which is a great benefit. We don't have any qualifying eligibility requirements. Anyone who lives in Worcester or works in Worcester is eligible to participate. So no one is excluded. And there's no stigma to be part of Worcester Family Partnership because everyone can be. So we work really hard to meet families where they are and to provide a variety of services for varied family interests. We provide play groups. In Worcester, we do that in a variety of locations, including some homeless shelters. And we do that on evenings and sometimes on weekends. And we still have it on Zoom because there are parents who don't have transportation or who might be afraid to leave the house. So that is an option that we have maintained by parent request, actually. So we also provide home visits through the Parent Child Plus national model, both to individual families and to family child care providers to provide support and coaching on how to work with young children. We provide parent education, both as standalone workshops, but also embedded in everything we do. At a play group, you're gonna learn coaching about how to handle situations or on a home visit. Or you might observe other children and see that those crazy things that your 2-year-old are doing really look like most other 2-year-olds. But you might not see that when you're home alone with them.
Beth, can I just have you get a little closer to the microphone too?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I hate microphones.
Thank you.
We also do offer the Ages and Stages Child Development Screening, and again, that's free and anyone can take it. It's a checklist you can do on your computer, so parents have the information they want. We also provide information and referral and work with all of our community partners and maintain connections to all of our community partners. And all of this is based on the Strengthening Families Protective Factors model, which is to decrease child abuse and provide parents the supports they need so that they're not at risk. We try and create a village where families can care for each other rather than just our being service providers. I think parents a lot of times come looking for activities for their kids or maybe just to get out of the house, but once they get there to see us, they find a community and they can get answers to questions they have. And all of us need help at some point in our parenting journey, so it's really important that it's not, you have to call and say you need help, but it's there as part of other things you're doing. The barriers I see are that, you know, funding is always a challenge. We're a state-funded program that hasn't increased in many years. And also the work we do is building relationships. That's hard to value and measure, particularly in bureaucracies that we're all embedded in. So.
Thanks, Beth. All right, my day. Worcester's taken some bold steps to support financially secure families, from guaranteed income pilots to tax credits and credit building loans. Can you share about how these strategies are working locally and what lessons or barriers other communities might take away from your experience?
Sure, my pleasure. So the Resiliency Center started about 3.5 years ago. The idea started about 2 years before that, but everything was on paper. And then I came into the program 2.5 years ago now, and my job was to like blow it up, right? So we have two components. One of the lessons that they learned in the beginning was that you couldn't have people in financial empowerment coaching if they were worried about where their rent was coming from or where their food was coming from, right? So then we developed this whole other scope to our program of community navigation. So we now have about 5 community navigators who not only work in 8 of the UMass clinics, working on with families on the social determinants of health, but we also have them on site in our office, and they help people on the spot. They can do SNAP applications, RAFT applications. They can connect people. We have been building that for a long time, and I've been here for a really long time. So I pretty much know a lot of people, and I'm just like, call this one, call that one. Right, somebody just called me a navigating angel? Angel navigator? Like that. I'm taking that title. So that was that, right? And so we stabilized folks, and during that process of stabilizing folks, we would introduce them to our financial empowerment coaches. We don't do financial literacy, we do financial empowerment coaching, because we utilize the mobility mentoring as an ethos, for our program. So the client evaluates themselves and assesses themselves on this bridge to economic mobility, where they choose who are your support people, who, you know, where's your work, your education, what have you done for work, and where do you want to be? And then we take that and break it down into goals. And the client is driving the car, right? We are there to walk with you, we are there to support you, and they meet with a financial coach on a regular basis in order to support. And if any barriers come up, then you have a coach there with you who can say, well, there are these resources, or let me connect you to a navigator. So we were able to apply for guaranteed basic income funding from ARPA. And so we had the first guaranteed basic income pilot in Central Mass. And so we worked with 2 cohorts, 26 families and 26 families, and we're just coming down to the end of our second cohort, where we have had 4 people purchase homes as a result of their work. We have had folks be promoted to jobs that they didn't think that they could get, and so they were not applying for them. We have had people get promoted to jobs and positions that they were afraid to apply for. Does everybody know what the benefits cliff is? Okay, so you know it's bad, right? So a lot of people get there and then they go back, right? No, I can't take that job. No, I don't want that. But because they had a financial empowerment coach working with them and walking alongside with them, they were able to say, okay, I got this, right? We also run the other piece of this is that all of our financial empowerment coaches are certified as with a financial social work certificate. So that is talking to people about their relationship, either physically mentally, emotionally, with money. And so what happens when I have a lot of money? What do I do? What don't I do? What are my habits? And so getting down to the nitty-gritty of that, and then being able to move on from that. And a lot of folks, we're actually having an event on November 6th at Doherty High School at 4 o'clock, where we're gonna put out a lot of this data and videos from our folks and testimonies. So really excited. If you're in town, come on down. And what else can I say? Barriers. I think the main barrier to this is that people don't understand, and they think you're just handing out gift cards to people, right? And money without people doing anything. And they don't realize the inequity of why you're doing that, right? As a person of color, as a low-income person in this society, right, your opportunities are harder for you to get at, right? We know that we have to work harder than everybody else to get a little bit. And so people think it's a handout, and it really isn't, right? It really is about a hand up and creating the path for possibilities, which is what the name of our program is. Thank you.
All right, Leslie, bring us home. So Project Flourish, the Family Child Care Success Project, and the Family Child Care Foundations are standout models for how to grow and support the early education workforce from within the community. What makes these models successful in Worcester? How are they promoting a thriving workforce, and what barriers that, if they were removed, would help early educators enter and stay in early education and care careers?
That's all. No pressure. Okay, so to give you a little context, Project Flourish is our registered apprenticeship. That is funded by the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development. That is limited to group child care settings because there are structural things embedded in the grant that require wage increases that can be documented. We started with that, and we were actually looking at that prior to COVID because we were looking at a dwindling workforce here in Worcester. And Kim's predecessor and my predecessor and worked with a bunch of other people and kind of brainstormed and found that opportunity. So they decided to apply, and we landed the first grant. We were supposed to start in February of 2020, and then the world blew up. So we had to make some adjustments. And what we found is that working with the different employer partners, we had to expand our approach in that particular grant. We had originally started with 5 employer partners that were supposed to come up collectively with 20 participants for the first cohort. By the time it came to launch, because of the devastation that happened in the sector, none of them had a candidate. So we had to expand our employer partner pool. But one of the things that makes things so successful in Worcester is the real collaborative attitude that the different entities within the community have. We were able to reach out very easily to other to other group centers and recruit the people that we needed to get this cohort off and running. And we had very brave early adopters who decided, okay, I don't really know what you're talking about, but we'll try it. And we were able to bring people that were interested in working in the classroom. Some were COVID cleaners, some were subs, some were bus monitors, and bring them to a level of foundational knowledge that they could work as a teacher in the classroom. While we were working on this, and once we got over our shock and awe that, wait a minute, we can't include family child care in this funding, we started to look for additional opportunities so we could offer a comparable training for family child care educators. At the same time, we were advocating with the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development for the inclusion of family child care. We had an opportunity because the United Way of Central Mass received one of the Mackenzie Scott contributions, and they offered a community challenge, and they were looking for anyone in the community that was interested in trying something new that would impact people that had been marginalized, improve people's economic development, or somehow impacted early childhood education. And it just happened our program checked all 3. So we applied, and although they had over 20 applicants, we were one of the groups selected to trial that. Because we were working closely in the community, we knew in particular it was our Latina educators that felt that they didn't have equity and access to the type of training that was being offered to their English-speaking peers. So we chose to work intentionally with them so that they could have an opportunity as well, and that went well. Enough that we were funded for a second cohort with them. We're about to launch our 9th cohort in the group registered apprenticeship. Because we had been making noise and rattling cages in different places, one of which was EEC, we were talking to them about what were the gaps, what were the things we needed support with. And they came out with an opportunity for intermediaries, both in the group child care sector and in the family child care sector. So we felt we needed to apply for that because we're the only ones in the state that were doing a formal program like apprenticeship with family child care educators. And we were chosen along with Melinda at United Way Back Bay, and Liz was here, Liz Sheehan-Castro from the SEIU Education and Support Fund was here earlier, to work with family child care educators throughout the state. In that, we're offering a different approach, a little bit different approach, but still following some of the tenets of apprenticeship, in that we are offering education for people and support of a peer mentor, because that's a key component in the apprenticeship, to have that resident expert there and available at your fingertips. We chose to provide instruction synchronously over Zoom so that educators could have that conversation back and forth with their facilitator or their instructor. In the meantime, just because we didn't have anything else going on, the Health Foundation of Central Mass was offering a grant series that they offer periodically, which is called Synergy. And what they're looking for under that grant is for community stakeholders to partner with other groups and to fill a gap or address a health need of the families or residents in the region, Central Mass region. So we had applied with them, and our original idea was kind of to build with a program that was running up in Fitchburg and feed into apprenticeship. But what happened with the introduction of the EEC grant is that took some of the aspects that we were working on in the Health Foundation grant. So we had to find a shift. So the Health Foundation very generously chose to supplement and support the work that was happening in these other grants. Under that, which is our Family Child Care Success Project, we're looking specifically at strategies to intervene with family child care educators. And the 3 that have bubbled up are people are really struggling with housing and landlord resistance. We also need an opportunity for someone to have what we call a systems navigator. There is no one-stop place for someone that wants to work in the field to come to learn how to navigate all the different systems and what their resources are. So we want to develop a position that does that. But our biggest and most exciting intervention that we're starting with this is in partnership with the Guild of St. Agnes, which is one of the systems here in Worcester, and that is offering the Family Child Care Incubator space. We have 2 of their darkened classrooms that they have agreed to work with us and give us the opportunity to now work with what we're going to call resident educators. We are recruiting family child care educators that are facing some type of a barrier to come in and operate their businesses in those spaces for up to 2 years while we work with them to resolve whatever that barrier might be in their operation of their business or their launching of their business. We could not do. Thank you. Take that, 413. Couldn't resist. We could not do any of this work without the partners that we have here in this community. Worcester is the 2nd largest city in the state, but it really is a small community. we can very easily reach out to Edward Street, to Together for Children. We work with Mass Hire, we work with Beth's program, we work with WCAC. One of my former childcare mothers is one of her coaches, actually. So it's like everybody knows everybody, or you're, one removed, and I know someone that can help you with that. So I would say that's one of the strengths, and that's why our particular program is able to thrive, and I think you've heard many of the programs here on stage too are able to as well. As far as barriers, in our particular world, our biggest challenge is funding. Surprise, surprise. And that is because many of the pots of funding that we have limitations of what the funds can be used for. Even in our registered apprenticeship, we knew early on we needed to have someone that was a case manager that we are calling a workforce success specialist. We also wanted someone that could be a coach or a guide for the mentors specifically to lead them through their mentoring process. We didn't have enough money in the EOLW grant to do that. We applied for 9 other grants before we finally got funded to add those roles into our program. And then we've been able to piecemeal different things together because of these different opportunities that have come forth to us. But it is a constant running, looking for the next pot, and in order to truly, truly support the sector, we need a sustainable source of funding that can look beyond just the immediate needs of the materials and the instructor and really look at the whole person. One thing that I appreciate the most about our program is we really try to stay focused on human-centered design and support the educators with what they want to do in their careers. We're not telling them, you have to go to college, you have to do this. And they appreciate that because we do the advising. So when you leave our program, we'll connect you to Quinsigamond Community College or Mount Wachusett if that's what you choose to do. And for some people, it's right away. For some people, it's 3 years after they leave our program because they're also juggling families and lives too. So I think as far as our message of thriving, it's keeping that human-centered design, keeping the network that you have and expanding it and being willing to listen to ideas and critiques, because it's constant improvement and adjustment in these changes. And just find us a pot of money so we can all do it.
All right, I think we have time for a couple quick questions. Shakira is going to walk around with the ball. And Shakira, can you just hold it up to demonstrate? So you can hold the black sort of microphone part by your mouth and then speak directly into it. And then when you're done, you can pass it off to Shakira. So go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question for one of our 5 incredible panelists. I don't know about you all, but I could listen to them talk for another 2 hours.
My question's for my day. So I'm curious how many families are trying to access your support and whether you have the human power to support those families.
Good question. Good question. No, we don't have the human power, but we have a plan. So really our plan is we're working with Empath, who are the ones that have developed the mobility mentoring and that we have adopted as our ethos in order to become a provider for them and then to be able to train other folks. Because we really feel that not only our navigators and empowerment coaches should know how to use this information and know about trauma-informed care and where people are coming from and executive function and all those things. We feel that everybody should know that. So we are actually training all of our departments in mobility mentoring, and we hope to be able to then contract out to different communities and different businesses to do the same.
And how do families get connected to you?
They can walk in, they can go online at WCAC, Resiliency Center, and fill out a form. Most people we ask to fill out a form with a navigator so that then we can see, where are you? Do you have all the resources, immediate resources that you're eligible for? And then get connected to a coach. Sometimes the coaching experience is one and that's it. Sometimes it's focused on one thing that, I know we had one person who had like 35 credit cards, right? And so that's what they came for. How do I deal with this? And they came for a couple of appointments and left. They got a solution and that was it. Other folks who have been part of our guaranteed basic income have actually continued after they finished, even though they're not getting the cards anymore, you know, the financial gain. And then I guess the other thing I will say is that we are now part of the Bridge to Prosperity, which is at the state level. There is a guaranteed basic income, so we started a pilot with 6 families, and we hope before the end of the year, beginning of the year, to add at least 15 to 20 more families to that. So.
One more? Yeah, we can do one more question.
Hi, I'm Amy Eisen. I work at Mass General Hospital in Chelsea. And my question is also for Maydi. We had a conversation at our table during the second panel where we were talking about the allocation per child per community when they are in kindergarten, and we looked it up, and it's like $15,000 is the state average. So I was curious if you could talk about the basic income pilot that had 26 people in, and then the one you just referenced that has 6. What was the allocation for how many years? And also, is it for only families with young children? And then one other question is...
It's supposed to be just one. That's like 3 now. But go ahead. What's the last one? Go ahead.
Last question was, you know, you talked about people perceiving this as a handout. And so I'm wondering, like, what framing has been successful for you? What metrics in terms of return on investment? Because, you know, we were talking about how we know that initiatives that have given basic income have cut child poverty. So just wondering what connections and what messages are helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't remember anything she asked me. I think our framing has been around empowerment of families and equity, and elevating low-income families, and acknowledging that the person that we are working with are the owner of their lives, right? And really letting people know that you can do this, you know? I know a young woman who was in our program who, when we met, was in a shelter, you know? And I knew her from before, so I was like, no, you can do this. You need to get out of that toxic environment, and you need to get into this program. And she did that. She had been trying to get her GED, her high set for a long time, and she hadn't done it. And I was like, no, I'm here. You come here. You tell me if you have any barriers. You know, what is it? I will support you. And I put another one of my staff to support her. You know, so she's got her high set. We employed her at our agency during this process. She is now part of the state one pilot. And she could have never done that without guidance. Like she did the work, right? But she didn't know the resources. She didn't know the nuances, right? When the shelter tried to throw her out over something that was not her fault, you know, I was able to connect her, community legal aid. I was able to talk to the people, EOHLC, right? So, but she did the work. All I would say was like, no, you gotta do this. No, this is the process, you know? Our guaranteed basic pilot was $500, $375, $250 for 9 months, and then the last 3 months it would go down. $375, $250, and then like $150, then the $375 went down, so, you know, accordingly. What was the other question? It was 3.
It was, did they have to have a young child?
Oh, thank you. The state pilot, you do have to have SNAP benefits, and you do have to have children, and you have to be, they're trying to really focus it on workforce, so they're really working to, like, we could work with your group, right? And they would be part of our guaranteed basic income, the B2P, because in the end, they were going to be moving towards, self-employment or employment. In our guaranteed basic income, we needed people to be either in a training program or looking for employment or employed. It didn't matter if you were family or individual. So we did have a couple of individuals, but most of them were family.
Amazing. Okay, this is the best part about today is we have 45 minutes of networking. So Amy, you can come find my day and ask 15 more questions. And, can you all help me give a round of applause for our 5 incredible panelists? So Amy's going to come up here. The 5 of us, we can take our quick picture down there, and then we're good to go.
Okay.
I guess. I keep repeating that.
All right, how we doing? Full room. Everybody, let's see some signage out there. Let's see those signs. Shake those signs. We've had a lot of temperatures in the room today, so let's see. We want you to really use these. We want you to think about how we can keep connecting you to people, to policy, to power. We'll let them, this is awkward as they're taking the photo down, right? Let's just name it. If you have not taken any selfies today, take a selfie or two. We have Troy here taking incredible photos, but some of you may know that I do selfies at the State House. I do them everywhere because selfies are more fun. Okay, and we're back. So, what a day, right? What a day. Let's hear it. What a day. It has been wonderful to be with you in person. While we know we can build community in the Zoom room, it's always nice to be in real life in a real room. I get to share thank yous. So first, we have to thank Neri for emceeing today. If you have ever been an MC, you are thinking of everything and the steps and what time is it and where the panels are. So Neri, thank you so much for all the incredible work inside, in front of, and behind the scenes. I also get to thank our incredible moderators and panelists, especially Shakira Parker, our fellow, who this was her coming out event as an Early Policy Pathway Fellows. And thank you to our event sponsors. You heard about Rockland Trust and the Massachusetts Business Roundtable. We're so grateful. And thanks to the photographer, Troy Thompson. We can't wait to see the photos, Troy. I'm talking right to you. And during networking, if you want a picture, ask Troy, right? And we've been taking a lot of action photos, but if you want a picture with your group, please ask Troy. Thanks to the team here at Mechanics Hall. Who's ever been here before? Who's first time? First time here. It's a beautiful, beautiful space. There's a whole nother room upstairs that's absolutely gorgeous. That's where my computer was playing the playlist. We have to thank Amy Scalar, and we have to thank Joseph, who is our IT person. He has been recording all day. Please thank Joseph. And we're thrilled to have our Strategies for Children Board of Directors here, Chairwoman Sally Fuller, Felicia Billy, and Kim Quinlan. As you may know, we've added 9 new members of our board over the last 18 months. And a huge thanks to Team SFC. Woo, everybody stand up. Neri, Titus, Marge, Marissa, Shakira, Ann, and our interns, Nafi, Amanda, and Lamin. Let's hear it. Now, some of you know that Titus Dostromitius used to be our Director of Research and Policy. He is now our Deputy Director. He has reminded me 3 times to make sure that I tell you to fill out the survey because we love us some data at SFC. Titus, how do we do it?
Scan that QR code if you haven't yet, and the event program is on there, and then the survey is a button on there too.
So it's a link tree, which is an incredible tool. So a QR code will go. You'll see lots of different options. We also, where's Nafi? We're going to shout out Nafi, who has been videoing. There she is. She's our intern from Bunker Hill Community College. We would love to have 4 or 5 people willing to go on video right now to share your reflections from today. The prompt goes something like this. Please share your name, title, and organization. Tell us what brought you to the summit today, and can you share with us the best part of the day? So if you are interested in connecting with NAFI, and we can collect, that's data too, video data, NAFI will be over there, and we can, during the reception, you can check in there. So, and we have an opportunity for our advocacy network, our alumni and our current advocacy network members. You have a chance to meet up in the boardroom, so ask Titus or me where that is, but you have a place to go and connect. And recycle your name tags. We appreciate that everyone who's ever done an event and printed out name tags? Yeah, we didn't do that, okay? You wrote your own name tags because we want to make sure that they were right and correct. And but if you want to recycle the plastic part as you're headed out, please leave it on the table. One of my guiding principles is to lead with love. Sometimes this can be perceived as soft or mushy, but I disagree. Love is fierce and love is powerful. So much of our work at Strategies for Children is built to support, to include, to listen, to see, to connect, and to celebrate. And we love a celebration. As you heard from Neri, next year we turn 25 years old, and we are excited to plan different ways to celebrate that milestone. If you have ideas about how we should celebrate, we probably are not going to have a gala. We want to do something in community with you. So please let us know. We have some great ideas from our board members, but we'd love to hear what would it mean for you to celebrate 25 years. And today we celebrate each of you and your commitment to this work. We also have 2 extra celebrations that are going to happen today. I don't know how I got lucky enough to do this job, but right now, everyone look under your chair for a ticket that says winner. Look under your chair. If you have a winning ticket, I want you to stand up and scream, I won! I won over there! I won! There should be 5. Look at the empty chairs. If you have a winning ticket, at the end, go see Marge at the reception desk. You will be taking home a 9:30 call mug. And now, today we also want to extra celebrate and honor someone. And I'm going to share her words. 25 years ago, I created the Children First Center in Granby, Massachusetts, helping to establish a nonprofit out of the ashes of a for-profit. The original plan was to briefly support the program through a transition. However, I proceeded to dedicate the bulk of my career to growing, shaping, building, leading, and guiding this organization that came to define me as both a person and a professional. After taking this program from a 1,000 square foot facility that was starting over from scratch to a 12,000 square feet with $1.5 million annual budget, I am in a period of professional and personal transition. I am ready for new challenges and opportunities. Please join me in welcoming, you see her on the 9:30 call, Donna Danette to the stage. You can just wave, Donna. You're not going to have to talk. But we want to congratulate you on this 25-year-old milestone. We are wishing you all the best as you think about your next steps, and we will be here to support you and cheer for you. And you can talk to Donna during the reception. Thank you. As early childhood professionals, all right, yes, one more time for we need an exit song. As early childhood professionals, we are often underestimated and undervalued. This is a narrative I believe we can and must change, and each of you is already doing it. Now it is our time to use all that we know to take action and be the advocates and leaders that our children, families, and educators need. At the root of this is you, your energy, your enthusiasm, your stories, your solutions, the innovative spirit are all what make this work possible and what helps us to bring our shared vision of high-quality early childhood experiences closer to being a reality. So ask yourself, what are you waiting for? Remember that sometimes we can be our own worst enemies, and when we think that we don't know enough, or that we convince ourselves that someone else will advocate or fight for us. Let's all agree to support each other and move from scarcity to abundance. Especially in our language, we are not just anything. We will speak up for ourselves and our colleagues with as much passion and as much confidence as we speak up for children. Imagine what could be. We need you to be bold, effective, thoughtful leaders. If not you, if not us, then who? Thank you for all you do to support children, families, and our communities and each other. Onward to the reception. Thank you for being with us today. We'll see you on the 9:30 call next week.